Tonight, division in the Conservatives over the Prime Minister's future. The former Scottish leader Ruth Davidson says he should go, while the current leader says not yet.
He's presided over a culture of law-breaking, repeated law-breaking, and he told Parliament and the country that no laws were broken when they had been. And for me, that is a resignation matter.
Also making the headlines, face-to-face with the Health Secretary.
The health service has let me down, and thousands like me.
Patients are left furious, waiting for surgery as the health service buys a private hospital as part of NHS recovery plans. Counting the cost as inflation hits a record high, why the price of eating out could become unaffordable.
And Rangers Europa League quarter-final opponents Braga arrive in Glasgow. Van Bronckhorst calls on a big performance from his players.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm Emma Cameron in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The Scottish Conservatives are split tonight on the future of the Prime Minister. Boris Johnson's been fined by police for breaking lockdown rules at his 2020 birthday party in Downing Street. In the last half hour, a Government Justice Minister, Lord Wolfson, quit his role, saying he had to be consistent with his obligation to uphold the law.
The Scottish Tory leader, Douglas Ross, says he's backing Boris Johnson while there's a war in Ukraine. But his predecessor, Ruth Davidson, says the Prime Minister must go now. Our political editor, Colin Mackay, caught up with them both today.
Thank you. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
It's a tough time to be a Tory asking people for votes. Yesterday, the Conservative Prime Minister and Chancellor were both fined for breaking COVID rules. Today, the Scottish Party leadership were showing a united front, despite taking very different positions on the future of Boris Johnson.
I think the Prime Minister should go at this time, and I know that it's a time of deep political and international unrest. But for me, and my opinion, is that the Prime Minister has broken the law. He's presided over a culture of law-breaking, repeated law-breaking, and he told Parliament and the country that no laws were broken when they had been. And for me, that is a resignation matter.
Douglas Ross says he should stay. Is Douglas Ross's position tenable just now?
Well, I support Douglas entirely. In fact, I think he's been put in an appalling position. I think there's a sort of position that no Scottish leader has been put in before, certainly harder than anything I ever had to deal with from colleagues down south. But Douglas was pretty gutsy in saying that he disagreed with the Prime Minister.
Gutsy then, but backing Boris Johnson now because of his leadership during the war in Ukraine. So how long is Boris Johnson's position tenable? Is it only as long as there is a situation like we have at the moment in Ukraine?
Well, I'm focused on the situation in Ukraine. I'm focused on what President Zelensky has said about Boris Johnson and the UK government's response.
If that changes, is his position still tenable?
Well, I've said I'm supporting the Prime Minister while he continues to lead the response against the Russian aggression in Ukraine.
The First Minister says the Conservatives are using the war in Ukraine as cover.
We've had what, in my view, is the lowest of the low, trying to use the horror and the suffering being inflicted on people in Ukraine as some kind of shield for the Prime Minister. And Douglas Ross in particular, who seems to be leading that particular line of argument, I don't know how he can look himself in the mirror, let alone look anybody in Scotland in the eye.
Some people that Douglas Ross did look in the eye today are still on side, but not all.
Should he go? No, definitely not.
Why not?
He's the best leader we've had for years. He tells the truth. I think he tells the truth. And, he goes a little bit astray sometimes, but I think he's a very good Prime Minister. He's doing good for this country.
He should go, definitely. I think just with all the Garden Party stuff as well, I mean, everybody's sort of, they're not happy just with his actions, to be fair lately.
He should resign. He's let a lot of people down. There's some families who really suffered during the pandemic. I personally lost my mother. And while he was partying, we weren't able to give her the send-off that she deserved.
It's a similar story for Rona Huckle. Her dad was 90 when he died, and only she and her mother could go to his funeral on the same day as the Prime Minister's birthday party in Downing Street.
I feel I've totally let down, and I feel as if I've been made a fool of. I feel as if they've been laughing, and it's just one rule for them, another rule for everybody else. And while I was suffering and going through one of the worst experiences of my life, and watching my mother go through one of the worst experiences of her life, and having my sister not be able to attend her own dad's funeral. At the same time, they were having a party.
What do you think Boris Johnson should do now?
Resign. Resign. Absolutely resign.
That word might be ringing in the Prime Minister's ears right now, but it's clear he intends to stay. Colin Mackay, STV News.
Well, now to our Westminster correspondent, Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, the Prime Minister seems determined to ride this out.
Yes, and it doesn't look like the Chancellor will be going anywhere either. There was some speculation last night that perhaps Rishi Sunak may choose to resign. That didn't happen. Now, down here today, we did see one Conservative backbencher, that's Nigel Mills, break ranks and say the Prime Minister should go. At Holyrood, one Tory MSP, Brian Whittle, did the same, saying he feels there should be a leadership election by the end of the summer. But elsewhere, it really has been fairly quiet. And now, almost all Cabinet Ministers have publicly backed the Prime Minister. The first to do so was the Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack last night. Now, yes, there is a view the situation in Ukraine has changed things, but it's more than that. There's a sense among Conservatives that perhaps there isn't an obvious successor they can unite around, especially given the view of the Chancellor has changed somewhat over the last month. And of course, there's these local council elections coming up too. Just though, because you're not hearing as much criticism publicly coming from Conservatives, doesn't mean this Partygate story is over. The Metropolitan Police have suggested that more fines could follow. And of course, MPs are on recess at the moment. They're coming back here from Tuesday next week, and you can expect more questions then.
Indeed, Catherine. Many thanks for that. A woman who waited 3 years for a hip operation has told the Health Secretary the NHS let her down. Hamza Yusuf came face to face with the patient while he was announcing the Health Service has bought a private hospital in Ayr, which will become part of a network of national treatment centres.
Ayrshire and Arran Health Board has spent nearly £2 million on the site, but more will need to be spent as the building is turned into a specialist orthopaedic facility. Sasha Spratt reports.
Messages. The health service has let me down and thousands like me. I don't think for 1 minute I'm unique. I know I'm not.
The health service is the number one priority. Now you can see that from the scale of the budget. I mean, the health budget.
It's a frustration patients across the country will share. Elizabeth has been living with chronic pain for 8 years.
I was getting desperate. How many years and how many nights can you stay awake for all the time? It grinds you down. You start off and you're all cheery and you're lovely, and it grinds you down. It nibbles away at you day after day, night after night. Unless you're a wealthy person, you can't see a way out of it. And should it run to that? I thought the health service was there to take care of your health.
After several treatments didn't help, Elizabeth was finally referred for a second hip operation. That was 3 years ago. She's only just been through the procedure.
Frustrating. It was off the scale. That's how frustrating it was. Because it's you're not only talking about the patient who is running with the pain, but you're talking about all the family. I didn't get to see my daughter through her pregnancy because she lives 500 miles away. Desperately wanted to see her, but I was waiting for appointments all the time.
The pandemic has seen waiting lists for operations grow exponentially, but today a step is being taken to increase capacity. Carrick Glen Private Hospital has been bought by the Health Service for £1.8 million. NHS, Ayrshire and Arran take over this site next month, and work on designing the upgrade has already begun. This hospital will be one of 10 national treatment centres, and when the network is complete, it will add 40,000 procedures each year.
I think at the moment it's quite a challenge where, for example, physios and nursing staff are pulled in multiple directions and covering lots of different cases. Even when we get back to the elective operating, the nature of the patients that we're looking after, the patients have suffered a lot longer and more complex, they're a lot more frail, they've lost their confidence, and also it means the surgery itself is more complicated.
The National Treatment Centre programme is set to be complete by 2025, but that's a long time to wait for more capacity.
we'll make it move as fast as we possibly can, but we also have to accept that we can't cut corners when it comes to, of course, making sure that these spaces are clinically appropriate, they're meeting the needs of a local community. But what we're not doing is just waiting for the NTCs to come on board. Of course, we're opening 3 in the course of the next 12 months, which will be excellent. And remember, they're national resources, but we're not waiting around for them. What we're trying to do is ensure that our recovery can begin now.
More centres for the network in Highland, Forth Valley and Fife should be ready in the next 12 months. Sasha Spratt, STV News, Ayr.
Meanwhile, the pressure on households and businesses continues to pile on as inflation hits a 30-year high. Fuel and food prices have risen by 7%, and that's before energy bills spike, which is expected to make prices rise even more.
The spiralling costs have led to some chefs warning that eating out will soon become unaffordable. Polly Partlet reports.
Marie's takeaway is feeling the crunch. She used to open throughout the day, but soaring costs mean they can now only afford to open at night.
We've been struggling since the pandemic started, and we're exhausted trying to keep the business going. So where do we get the money for this? How do they actually honestly think that a small company can survive this? Give it another year and I don't think there'll be a small business left.
What's making costs rise? Well, food prices, the increase in minimum wage, fuel prices, the national insurance hike, and the end of VAT relief are all combining and putting pressure on businesses, which is then filtered down to the customer. Glasgow restaurant Block is known for its cheap prices, but they're warning eating out will soon become unaffordable.
In the last couple of weeks, cooking oil and chicken has tripled nearly. It's really, really expensive, and cooking oils went up by about £10 in the last 2 months. This is the highest I've seen prices since I've been in cooking. We're struggling and everybody else is struggling to source products for a cheap price, and we use a lot of imported products for Asian stuff, Mexican stuff. That's a real struggle to get these days.
I ate out on Monday night for the first time in quite a while. Took myself and my daughter, and yeah, I have to say I did notice quite a jump.
So we've noticed it's a bit more expensive to eat out. I mean, we've both recently retired actually, so we are a bit more frugal now, and we are trying to sort of look at places that are, things, food costs a little bit less.
Although it's not going to stop me eating out, definitely not. It might prevent me going out so often.
And it's not just restaurants feeling the pinch.
It's like a perfect storm at the moment. Everything's coming through. We're seeing increases in our products, sometimes weekly, obviously the diesel price and heat and light, and this month national insurance and various other things. So it just feels like a bit of a perfect storm. So we're kind of just paddling away, trying to keep up with it.
On top of all of this, there is the global market pressure from the fallout from the war in Ukraine.
We're seeing some of the sort of supply chain disruptions and so on that are feeding through to particularly certain types of food products, given the huge amount of exports that Ukraine has in that sort of area.
The spike in energy bills is expected to make prices rise even more. The Bank of England predicts that inflation could peak at around 8% in April, meaning more costs for businesses and consumers to swallow. Polly Bartlett, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and the leader of the Scottish Lib Dems says his party would consider coalition with any other political party after the upcoming council elections. Launching their manifesto, Alex Cole-Hamilton says he would leave the decision up to individual councillors and is pledging to tackle the cost of living crisis.
I have concerns about certain parties, and we see particularly in cities like Glasgow and Edinburgh, SNP-led administrations are failing the people they serve. We wouldn't prop up failing administrations, but we wouldn't rule out any deal as long as it was for the good of the communities we're trying to serve.
The legal requirement to wear face coverings in most indoor public spaces and public transport will be dropped from Easter Monday. The law will be replaced by guidance recommending people wear masks.
A murder investigation is underway in Coatbridge after 2 bodies were found within days of each other. A 46-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the deaths, which police believe to be linked.
A man's body was found in high flats on the Lanarkshire town's Coat Street on Sunday. Yesterday, a woman was found dead in Calder Street, as Vanessa Taff reports.
The body of 51-year-old Jim Duffy was found at High Coats Flats in Coatbridge on Sunday. Police are treating his death as murder. Now, while investigating, they found the body of a woman here in a house nearby on Calder Street. Her death is unexplained and she is yet to be identified. A 46-year-old man has been arrested in connection with Mr Duffy's murder, and officers believe both the deaths are linked. Police say they're carrying out extensive searches in the area and are keen to speak with anyone who saw or had any connection with Mr Duffy on the day he died. Vanessa Taff, STV News, Coatbridge.
People living in Glasgow's Park Circuit will be spending the night in their homes for the first time since January. Trinity Tower was damaged by Storm Malik, raising safety concerns and forcing residents into temporary accommodation. Jordan Moore reports.
People have had a long wait to get back into their homes. 2 months on, and some are finally able to return.
It's a relief to get back, get your own stuff, and just go on with life. Because even though we've got back to get a few items out, it's not enough to, interrupts the whole flow of your life. You kind of go away, because you're waiting for developments, waiting for news for the council and so on. So you're kind of hanging about. It's a limbo kind of situation.
Storm damage raised fears Trinity Tower might collapse. Work to stabilise the building is nearing completion, allowing the council to lift the exclusion zone and letting people back into their homes.
Well, we haven't been inside yet, so as you know, we've been out for 10 weeks. We don't know what it's going to look like when we go in, but hopefully everything's all right. And to answer your question, very relieved. It's been very stressful.
Despite the relief of many residents, there remains the issue with the building itself, which is still deemed too unsafe. This means residents living within it cannot return to their homes, although the council has allowed them to go back to get their belongings that they couldn't get the first time round. Even still, there are those who have moved back in who feel it's a bittersweet moment.
We had to take a long-term let out of Glasgow, which we're still paying for, so we've had to give 4 weeks' notice. So we've got another 4 weeks' worth of outlays, which nobody's paying for. So the cost of the whole scenario here has been huge to us.
Work on the historic A-listed building should ensure people can call this area home again and secure its place in Glasgow's skyline for years to come. Jordan Moore, STV News, Glasgow.
Well, Raman's here with all tonight's sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Giovanni van Bronckhorst has called on his players to embrace the challenge of Braga as Rangers look to secure a place in the semi-finals of the Europa League. The Ibrox side trail 1-0 from the first leg. The Dutchman has also revealed Philip Hollander's season is over after sustaining a foot injury. Ronnie Charters reports.
Carlos Carvalhal was all smiles as he arrived in Glasgow with his Braga players. Leading from the first leg, the Portuguese boss is hoping to mastermind Rangers' downfall tomorrow night. With the semi-finals of the Europa League the prize, his opposite number, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, is calling on his players to produce a big performance.
I'm focusing on tomorrow, which is reaching the semi-finals of Europe, which is a great achievement if we are capable in doing that. So, that's all we have to do, take it game by game. And, I think tomorrow is a big night for all of us, and we should enjoy it and embrace the challenge we're going to face and do everything possible to be in the semis.
Aaron Ramsey has only managed 4 minutes of football for Rangers in Europe. The Welshman hopes for a more consistent run in the team and is ready to play his part tomorrow night.
I can still produce, the numbers required and what I used to do. So I have no issues with that. It's just getting that consistency going and getting into a bit of the rhythm. So over the last few weeks now, I felt better, felt stronger, and now these games are coming thick and fast. So hopefully, I can play big parts in these games and show what I'm capable of doing.
Van Bronckhorst confirmed Philip Hollander is ruled out for the rest of the season with a foot problem. John Lundstrom trained today and could be available for tomorrow's match. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Scotland forward Claire Emsley says there are a lot of positives to take from the World Cup qualifier against Spain last night. That's despite losing 2-0. The Spaniards took the lead early in the first half from the penalty spot before doubling their advantage in the 78th minute. The Scots are second in their group. The runners-up qualify to the playoffs. Rugby news, and George Turner has signed a new deal with Glasgow Warriors. The hooker, who's been at the club for almost 5 years, believes Scotland is the place for his career to continue to develop. Now, as the new Speedway season gets underway this weekend, Glasgow Tigers captain Ulrich Ostergaard says quitting the sport was never an option as he gets set to return from a broken back. The 40-year-old's campaign was cut short last July after this high-speed crash. But the rider says he's recovered fully and has high ambitions for this year.
The first thing when I woke up, I felt quite good, and I was like, oh, when can I get back on a bike? And when you enjoy your speedway and you've got some good teammates and everything is going good, it's the best thing in the world. So there's not really been any doubt of whether I wanted to be back or not. So, I was just really positive to be back on a bike and start the new season and want to try keep going where I left off.
And that, folks, is all your sport for me tonight. I'll be live at Ibrox ahead of Rangers match against Braga.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Well, now Sean's here with the weather outlook.
Well, I'm sure you've seen the word heatwave being touted around a lot. Social media, press, last couple of days. Yes, temperatures will be rising, 16, 17 degrees Celsius, but the outlook's still looking a bit mixed with some outbreaks of rain at times. Looks as if the best of the weather will be further south, but at least the temperatures are rising and there will be some sunshine as we head into the Easter weekend. Let's have a look.
Watch out for a sudden temperature drop. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Now tonight I'm going to give you a bit of an extended outlook into Easter weekend. Temperatures will be rising, but I'm not going to offer you wall-to-wall sunshine, unfortunately, because we're going to see little weather fronts coming in, give us a bit more cloud and some outbreaks of rain at times. Now today we started off not too great, outbreaks of rain, a lot of cloud around, misty weather as well, but it's been slowly improving, some brighter spells coming through. And tonight should be largely dry, broken cloud, and temperatures Finchley tonight 4 degrees, so a wee bit of a nip in air in one or two spots. Now tomorrow we've got thicker cloud coming into the Hebrides. That brings us some outbreaks of rain here, fairly persistent rain coming into Coll and Tiree, shower outbreaks of rain into Kintyre, also Arran, but for much of the mainland it remains dry. There will be a lot of cloud around, but the cloud breaking at times to give us some brief sunny spells. Top temperatures tomorrow 15 degrees Fort William, that's 59 in Fahrenheit. Temperatures rising a wee bit more as we move into Good Friday. Highs of 16 or 17 for the likes of Glasgow, Cumbernauld and also around the likes of Airdrie and towards Paisley. That's into low 60s in Fahrenheit. The risk of some light showers, mainly across the South Highlands and also the southern uplands. And then on Saturday I'm expecting a fair amount of dry and bright weather. Temperatures still 15 or 16 degrees in the sunny spells. A few scattered showers coming into the far west. Then for Easter Sunday I expect thicker cloud and some outbreaks of rain, especially later on the day. Some heavy rain coming in. Our highs 15 degrees Celsius. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, the hit musical Waitress is in Scotland for the first time, bringing a slice of musical magic to the stage at Glasgow's King's before moving to Edinburgh's Playhouse next week.
Well, Laura Boyd joined the stars of the show to find out the recipe for success.
Take one incredible pie maker with a horrible husband.
We very quickly realised that she bakes all of her problems into her pies.
Throw an unexpected spanner into the works.
She falls pregnant and she goes to the doctor's surgery for a checkup and meets a gynaecologist called Dr. Pomater, played by me, who is also married, and they fall in love and have a little bit of a sordid affair, which makes him sound like a terrible man, but for some reason you like him.
And you have the ingredients that make up Waitress, the rom-com musical that's currently delighting Scottish crowds, with Chelsea Halfpenny in the lead role.
Well, yeah, I've never been to Glasgow, so I'm really sort of excited to be here. But the audience last night, I mean, what a way to start the week. It was full to the brim, and the reaction we got was brilliant. It's super heartwarming. I think you come away feeling full of like love, and you feel really happy, but also you'll really laugh. And I think after the couple of years we've all had, that's really important.
I think this is one of those shows which you are given the license to really go for it, and I think within 30 seconds to a minute of the show, you know where you are, and you know you're in a safe place to have fun.
And you love being in Glasgow because you've been here so many times, haven't you?
We have always tried to start tours in Glasgow because they set a very high precedent for what's going to happen. Been told about heckling. Apparently there's a lot of heckling going on in Glasgow in theatre, which I haven't experienced yet, so I'm hoping for... I shouldn't say that out loud. But I like all that. I like people getting involved.
Heckles aside, you're guaranteed to leave Waitress with one sweet song stuck in your head.
If you don't go away singing Sugar, Butter, Flour for the next month, I'd be very surprised.
Sugar, butter, flour, sugar. Well, I saw it last night and I can certainly vouch for that, Kellyanne.
Oh, well, it does look great. That's all from us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.